We are here today. Let's talk Denver. We need to talk about the ceasefire and the things that are going on in our communities and even the communities abroad. So we have a panel here that's going to discuss the issues that we're having right now. And I'm going to start on the end with Mr. McBride. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Jason McBride, Violence Interruption, Secondary Violence Prevention for Struggle of Love Foundation.
Joel Hodge, Coach I, co-founder and programs director of Struggle Love Foundation.
Rhonda Fields, State Senator representing Arapahoe County in Aurora.
I'm Rajan and I'm a freshman.
Yes.
I'm Sharon Battle. I'm a co-pastor of the New Pearl Church. I am a board member of Together Colorado and the Transforming Justice team.
And I'm Roger Cobb, community member, survivor, advocate, and pleasure to be here.
My name is Marie Basin. I'm the mother of Broderick Bell, the 6-year-old shot with a gun violence in 1993, and a mom against gun violence.
Good morning, I'm Ron Thomas, Denver Chief of Police.
Thank you, guys. So I'm going to start with you, Jason. All of the things that are happening in our community, what impact have you seen?
I mean, I think it's definitely been a negative impact overall on our community. When you start to talk about losing young people that have their futures all ahead of them, you know, we don't know if these kids are going to be doctors, lawyers, architects, but their lives are being, their lights are being extinguished before their time. So just the impact of that, and then whenever we lose, you know, young people in the community, it affects all of us because we have relationships with these young people. So the traumatic effect on losing these people, just overall on a community, has definitely taken its toll.
Yes. And Joel, you were telling us some things that you guys, I believe was this week, you guys attended some services.
Yeah, yesterday was the service for Tay Tay, 16-year-old that was murdered, found in the garbage can or the dumpster area in Green Valley Ranch. Plus another 16-year-old was Aaliyah, a Hispanic young lady that also died due to gun violence. And so we're just here, you know, to beg and ask our parents, our guardians, our uncles, our fathers to try to step up and do a better job of leading our community and bringing love back into our children's hearts, our youth's hearts, and figuring this out together as a team. So no one, I believe, has the correct answer, but I think together as a unit we can come up with a solution and a way to help prevent these actions of arising before they arise, if that makes any sense. We have to be proactive more, and we need more men. And I'm calling out men. And I'm fortunate you may hate me from here on out, but that is my mission. I will be calling out our men to protect our community, our kings. We're designed to protect our elders, protect our women, protect our children, and provide and protect for our community. And that's what we're demanding here. We're no longer going to go around and ask for peace and this and that. We're demanding this. We are not longer, it's unacceptable for us to sit around and for another thing for the parents, please, do not drop your children off, a 12-year-old through 18-year-old, off at a funeral for a 16-year-old by themselves. Right. And they have no shoulder to cry on, but Jason or Eyes or Chief Thomas that's there and watching 50 kids at a funeral that doesn't have an adult sitting next to them, going through trauma, and you drive off and go to the mall. This is unacceptable. And for us to sit around and continue to be quiet, buddy, shake hands with these kind of people, laugh with these kind of people, you're no longer accepted in my realm, my life, my organization, none of that. Because if you're out to destroy our community, If you're out to not raise your children with love and teach them some discipline, then you need to go as well. And I'm sorry about that, but it's just sad to me that we sat in a funeral and Jason and I are sitting in the front and they're sending their kids in Ubers, 12 years old, to a funeral.
Ridiculous.
And then we wonder why our children are loosey-goosey and have just out here with no direction. We're not giving them direction. We're not ordering them to take our directions. Fathers, brothers, uncles, please join us in this fight. Put down the bottle. Slow down on it. You need help? We got help for that.
Yes.
Put down the whatever's driving you away from love and come back to our community and let's heal our community. We forgive you. We're not going to hold your past against you, but we are going to hold your future. If we're going to continue this, then you must be held accountable as well. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
You're good. Senator Rhonda Fields.
Good morning.
Hey, tell us what your thoughts are.
You know, my thoughts are really simple. It's just that we have to end gun violence. We have to do everything possible to interrupt that, and I think that we all have a responsibility to do that. As a state senator, I'm responsible for creating policy and legislation to help curb gun violence, and we've done that. But like the brother was saying, it can't be done just through policy.
Right.
It has to be also done and implemented and orchestrated in the community, through families, through churches, through business owners. We all bear responsibilities as relates to making sure that we end gun violence in our city and state.
Yes, I agree with you. And next to me is the handsome Rajan. We call him Little RJ. And so I'm going to let him tell you what his experiences are and what his experience has been recently.
I got shot a few months ago in September. It was so unexpected. Like, I have family members that have died from getting shot, but I never thought that would happen to me. Like, the whole day was just so normal, and until they let us out of school early, but they didn't tell anyone. And I went to go hang out at the rec, and I was working out, but I wasn't working out as hard because I had boxing practice the next day. So I was working out with my girlfriend and her sister, and my girlfriend, me and her had got into a small argument, but you know, we got through it. But still, I was walking her to the bus stop because her mom says that she had to be home. So I was walking her to the bus stop, and as we're walking to the bus stop, I let my guard down for 1 second because I was looking to call my mom. And I let my guard down, and as soon as I let my guard down, I regret doing it because I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. And it's like everything was like a movie. Everything went in slow motion, and I just heard a gun firing, and I didn't know if it was real or not. So my first instinct was to make sure my girlfriend's okay. And I seen a few bullets pass by our heads, and everything was just in slow motion, and it did not feel real. It felt like I was in a dream. And after I seen 2 bullets pass by our heads, I can't lose her. So I pushed her out the way, and I took the bullet for her. And if I didn't take that bullet, it probably would have hit her directly in the head. And I got shot right here on my cheekbone, and my cheekbone broke the bullet, and the bullet traveled down into my jaw down here, and I got shot again in my jaw and my neck. It shattered my jaw, and I couldn't talk for 2 weeks, and I had to relearn how to talk again, and I had to relearn how to walk again. It just wasn't easy. It was just so hard. And I'm gonna be honest, I wanted to kill myself because of the pain. And I couldn't handle the pain. It was just too much. And I didn't want my mom to see me going through this, or my siblings. I tried to stay strong for them. And as I felt myself dying, I just prayed, and I kept praying, and I asked God for his strength. And as I asked for strength, I felt a little bit more life inside of me, and I just kept on fighting. And I just kept on having flashbacks about my sister, my brothers, just everyone in general. And I look up and I see my girlfriend. I'm like, no, I have to keep on doing this for them. And as I'm bleeding out, I just keep on praying for strength, and I pray for the fire of God to protect me, and for my angels to protect me. And it was just a hard experience. And when I got shot, like, I blacked out, but I was aware of everything at the same time. And I could feel myself hitting the ground, and when I hit the ground, I hit this part of my head really, really hard. But I'd say I was blacked out for at least a couple minutes, and I woke up so confused, and I didn't know if I was bleeding or not. And I still tried to get up and run, but I noticed I couldn't really stand up. And so I fall to the ground again, and I couldn't get up. I just couldn't walk. And I thought, man, I couldn't talk either, so it was just so horrible. And I just couldn't talk. I couldn't tell everybody how bad it hurts. All I could do was cry and then just pray.
Excuse me. So, can you guys just give it up for him? Because I don't know if I could have went through that and then talked about it.
Yes.
And so I thank you for being able to talk about it. But we talk about, I'm just going to say, this is my grandson. This is my grandson. This is a miracle, and we've experienced major miracles in our family, because we know a lot of people who don't make it one shot. But I tell him all the time, you had sense enough to call on the higher power, right? And then you don't know how quick the ambulance is going to get there.
That's right.
You don't know who around you. And sometimes when things happen like that, people run away from you instead of run to you to help you. And thank God somebody ran to him to help them. So I thank you guys publicly for helping him and getting him past that. And now he's experiencing some, I would say, PTSD and some anxiety and things like that. And I'm just going to say it, Denver East High School is not being very supportive as far as they think he's supposed to be back at school already. What do you think about them thinking he should be at school when that happened in September?
I don't think that we consider the mental trauma that our children go through. My children are traumatized, and they haven't experienced what your grandson has. My son was wrongfully arrested, and he's traumatized, and I don't think the schools think about what happens. One of the things that happened in our family, he was so embarrassed that the school already knew what happened with him before his parents did, before his friends did. And so that embarrassment.
Right.
And now he desires to carry a gun. He's not carrying a gun because that is something that we've been discussing as a family, not to do that. And my daughter's not carrying a gun. This is her last year at Montbello High School. But she's like, Mom, there's so much violence. But I tried to reach out to the school, and I got crickets.
Right.
Now,
Montbello.
during COVID, early on, I called Chief Pazin, and he introduced me to Commander Marion, I think his name is, Bello. And he sent someone out just to slow the kids down from driving so fast. And just to try to talk about being safe in our community. And my children were a little upset that I called on the police and asked for help. But I asked for help because we got to help each other. And I'm tired with you of parents telling me, oh, Sharon, you go to the school, you do this, but I'm not interested. I'm tired of hearing parents say, well, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. It's us. It's our responsibility to show up for your grandson and all of our children, because your children are my children.
Right.
And those are going to be our neighbors. Those are going to be the people who are going to be raising their children amongst us. And if we don't have the attitude that it's our responsibility,
Right.
then what?
Then what?
And if all of us carry a gun, somebody's gonna use it. So we need to change the attitude and the presence. And I agree with you, we need men to show up. Because young men are gonna follow men. That is just how it is. My sons say that they don't like what their father tells them, but they do what he asks them to do, even when they don't like it. That's what they do. That's what they emulate. Your words come back to you.
Right.
Like our parents' words did. So I think the school needs to understand that this is going on, but not have the attitude that we need to lock up every young black man.
Right.
We need community events and people like Struggle of Love who are already doing the work in the community to send our children to. But we need to be there with them. We don't need to send and drop our kids off. One of the things, I'm a co-pastor at church, and one of the things people do is they drop their kids off. And how are they going to learn to call on God like your grandson did if you are not standing with them, if they're not standing by you saying that it's important and worthwhile?
Right.
In order for us to call on each other, and we all need to call on each other, but in order for them to call on God, they got to see us doing it.
They got to see us.
They have to see us being a neighbor, not only to the other black people in the community, but to the Latinos and Latinas in the community, to the white folks in the community, to the gentrifiers, to everybody that's in the community. We need to reach out. And it's different, because sometimes people don't speak to me when I walk in the park, go around Montbello High School.
They don't.
And we need a different attitude.
We do.
I'm willing, and I hope that with all these people around here, with Chief Thomas being present, all these people who have experience with their loved ones harmed from gun violence, and people here ready to work on it in the legislature, we can do something different.
Yes.
I believe we make the way. Public safety is us. It's the relationships that we build.
Yes, I agree. I do. And Roger, can you tell us what your department and the company you work for, the organization you work for, what can they do to help some of the things we're talking about?
Well, it's a little bit of a twist, if you will, in that I'm not here in that capacity. I'm here as a survivor. My son was murdered, Reese Grant Cobb, in 2018, and I've actually worked for the Office of Economic Development and Opportunity, and so I manage grants to nonprofits.
Yes.
One of the grantees this past year has been the Struggle of Love. They've done a fantastic job.
Yes, they have.
But what I think about more than anything is this call to action, if you will. Of course, men, fathers, the legislature, but we as a community have to come together because we all have something to give, if you will. Every kid is not going to do athletics, there's the arts, there's so many things. And so really more than anything, I'm solution oriented and understanding what makes a young man or a young woman do what they do. You know, the key thing is everybody's out here to eat, no matter what it is. And if your parents aren't present and you're hungry, you're going to find a way to eat, whatever that looks like. And you become a survivor, if you will. Those are the relationships that have to be built with our youth to understand where they're at. And instead of saying, this is what we have for you, the question is, what do you need?
Right.
What do you need? Because everybody has to eat. Anything that's living has to eat. And so when I look at the Struggle of Love and what's going on with John, with the senator, those are just two elements of it. That call to action for not just men, not just women, but teenagers, mentors, anyone, grab someone, have that conversation, build that relationship, because as you build that relationship, you're building up an individual that can then build up another individual. So it's a little bit out of my realm in terms of what I do for a living, but understanding that I'm a survivor and having coached for 10, 20 years, at 61 years old, backing back and letting the young folks do the job, it's still my job, to make those connections, as they say, connect the dots, so to speak, because no one can do it by themselves. I'm still in pain. I'll never heal. And I know that, and I've drawn back some, and I thought, well, what can I do? How can I make a difference? It's building those relationships, those positive relationships, putting our arms around our community and embracing them. It's not about an individual, it's about all of us.
Right. It definitely is. And Marie, your story is, it's still, no matter how long ago it was, everybody still remembers your son. How's he doing?
He's doing really well. And I just wanted to say that not only did we have the victims that are getting shot, but you have a lot of survivors around. And you're one, you know, just to be in that circle, your life changes because you have a lot of wounded people around. Like I give an example of the theater when the mass shooting went in. You had so many people get shot, but look how many left out of there that wasn't injured. They're traumatized.
Right.
They need help. You'll never forget that. Even with your grandson, the people that seen it, his girlfriend, there's some damage being done. Right. You got wounded people walking around us.
That's right.
And so what happens is we have nonprofit organizations that I see coming up, Second Chance, Road Called Straight, that are taking care of people after they come out incarcerated. I'm just thinking that there should be some type of program in the community to keep them from going in there at all. Right. And to piggyback on what she said about now kids want a gun.
Right.
I found my grandson and 2 kids came in. This happened 3 years ago. I'm an insurance broker. They came in with the backpack and ran up the steps and they ran back down without it. And I happened to wait till they left and I went upstairs, opened up that backpack, and there was a gun. This was a bad gun. It was a sawed off something. Right. And I said to myself, now this thing, you'll be shooting at that, but you're gonna shoot everybody. Because it's getting ready to spray. I took it. So, wait, it gets better. Yes. They came back in, ran up the steps, it was gone. Right. So they start sweating me, Mom. And I'm like, well, it's not ours. Right. I said, you better get up off me. I'm calling 911. So I called the police. So I called the police, said, I found it. I'm trying not to get the kid in trouble. So in Denver, they give you $50. This is terrible. So I gave the police the gun. And then 2 days later, they come back. One with book of pictures, wanted me to identify. I was like, ah. So I still didn't say anything. 2 days, they come back. So I was on my knees praying. I said, Daddy, if they come back again, I got to tell the truth. Yeah. As soon as I said amen, they knocked on the door. So I said, Officer, you know, I told him the story. Right. Well, story ends. 2 months later, they knocked on the door and arrested me.
Oh my gosh. You're trying to help.
Yes. So thank goodness I tell the officers that came to get me that what happened. He said, oh no. So it makes it hard for us to help the kids when we get, so I happen to have a bondsman as one of my clients. And the police called the bondsman and said, this is messed up. Can you please meet us down there? They stopped and gave me some ice cream. So the police officers did. They said, we hate to do this, but it got dismissed. Yes. But the thing of it is that if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Right. So now the kids are scared. Now everybody's around seeing your grandson. And they're thinking that they need to protect themselves. So the Pandora box that's been opened with the gun violence is still out there. And I don't know the solution because now people are trying to protect themselves. Right. And the gun thing is just off the chain. But I just wanted to say that we have to look at our survivors. I haven't been to an MLK march since 1993 when my son got shot. I'm paranoid where I go. Well, not paranoid. TBI was what Broderick had. He got shot between his eyes with the 9mm. He was 6 years old. He got shot June 9th. I was lucky to have Bill Ritter as the district attorney for 2 weeks that befriended me, Chief Dave Machad, Governor Romer. We all did a march to save our children.
Right.
Now I'm looking back from 1993 to today. It's on steroids.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed. And so we really need to look at the kids who survived, where their mental mind is now, because the kids want guns now, and we're trying to take away the guns. But so I'm not for sure the solution, but we need to be sensitive to the survivors as well as the victims.
Right.
That's my story.
Okay, Chief. How are you?
I'm very good, very good. But I will say that I'm actually distressed. You know, the young man just told a powerful story, but he said something that shook me. He said that he let his guard down.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of society do we live in where kids have to worry about letting their guard down? My goodness.
It's retarded.
Yeah. It is. And for him to say that, he said it to me, I let my guard down. We're supposed to be able to walk down the street.
Absolutely.
We're supposed
That's right.
to be able to have fun and not worry about somebody pulling out a gun. And then just spraying the crowd. Like, think about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they get the guns and then they can't control it. So it sprays everything, right? But we also have to talk to the school, because if a student tells, I thought I saw this, maybe you should go check it out instead of, okay, I'll be back. You know, there's a lot of that where I believe they're not paying attention, or they're too busy to pay attention. How do you feel about that?
That's troublesome. I mean, we have to look into these things. We have to trust our children, and when they're afraid, when they're concerned, we have to be immediately responsive to that.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. And then on the other end, when you have people that, I'm using Rhonda for an example, when you have somebody that's cooperating with the police, I'm going to identify, I'm going to tell, and then they get your information and then they show up. Mm-hmm. How do we prevent them from getting the information to come back and retaliate because you did the right thing by telling what was going on?
Yeah, I certainly understand and appreciate that concern. I mean, we encourage folks to reach out to the police to give us all the information that they have. I think, try our best to be discreet. I mean, we don't have to come to your home. You can come to us. We can meet at off-site locations. If you have a concern about retaliation, we can talk about that. We can identify ways to keep your information safe, keep your identity safe. We can talk about that, because that certainly is a concern. We don't want people holding on to information that is going to help us bring people to justice because they're concerned about retaliation. So I think it's a real concern. I think we need to hear that and pay attention to that and be responsive to that, and that's something we definitely want to talk about and make sure that you feel safe coming forward.
Yes. And my his mother's in the audience. That's Brianna. My husband's in the audience, and his sister's Akira. So all of us experience something that I can't even put into words. So when you get that phone call, you're hysterical. You're like, this is not real. This is, like he said, he thought he was in a dream. Totally. I couldn't drive. I think I hit the sidewalk, and I think I was running in the ditch, and then I had to stop and slow down, like, okay, this is really what they said. This is exactly what they said. So I normally would have picked him up by then, but Denver East High School didn't let anybody know that the kids were getting out of school early that day. Usually you get a phone call, you get a text message, right? All at the same time, and an email, boom. And it hits we didn't get any of that, not at all. And then Jason told me that some of the parents didn't even know that happened. Sure. How did you find that out?
Well, I spoke to a lot of parents because there was another incident at East, I think, 3 or 4 days later, that we had to go to respond to. So a lot of the parents didn't know about your grandson's incident. And just to piggyback off a number of people, and they talk about trauma. The first thing I learned when I got into this game is that if you don't take trauma and transform it, you're going to transfer it.
Right.
And so a lot of these kids that go through trauma are just transferring it.
That's right.
Instead of transforming it into something positive. They're just using it
Right.
to be violent or aggressive or other things. And we're not teaching these kids any coping skills. We're not doing anything. Like Coach said yesterday, to watch young people who were there to mourn a classmate or family and have to do that alone at 12 to 18 years old, you don't know how to process these things. And so when we're experiencing that or we're seeing those things, these young people going through these things, when we're leaving the funeral, our thoughts are this, they're going to grieve for a certain amount of period, then they're going to get angry.
Right.
And that
That's
anger
true.
is going to be turned into something that maybe we don't want to see. And to have so many young people in just that funeral alone, they're experiencing that. I mean, that kind of is the status quo of what today's society is about. Kids are kind of left on their own, to their own devices to handle it, to straighten it out, to figure it out. Because as parents, we're too busy. We're working and we have our own things, and we forget that our kids are the number one things in our lives.
They're supposed to be.
Right, and I think that's we forgot that in this generation, and as we put work and social and everything else before our young people, we see the result of what's happening here. And so we really need to step in, be parents again, start understanding that these kids are going through a lot. And another thing, something that your grandson said is, a lot of kids that walk through our doors that struggle with love, we get referrals from schools, from courts, from everything else.
Right.
Most of these kids do have gun cases, right? And these aren't the kids that we expect to have gun cases. These are the good kids. These are the kids that go to school every day, that want an education. And when you talk to them, they're just scared.
Right.
The other kids that are involved in gangs or violence have weapons, weaponry that, they're scared of, that the police, I'm sure, are scared of. Like, we've seen guns on the street that I'm like, well, how did you even get this, right?
Right.
Like that, like something from Call of Duty or something like that, right?
Right.
That's how they got it.
We're, just in what we do on a daily basis. So there's a lot of things that we really need to address to start to straighten these things out.
Right.
And just putting young people number one is we start there, right? We start there.
Right. That's true. What do you think about what he just said?
He's right on point. And what we're trying to do at the state level is that we're trying to address after the bullet has been fired and after the trauma has happened.
Right.
We don't have a really good rapid response. The media shows up, it's in the print media, TV media, and then people forget about the trauma that happens after that bullet has harmed so many people or they've been in that environment. So we're looking at resources and making sure, just like we had a response for COVID, and like we have a response that you wear a seatbelt, and just like helmets, those kinds of things, we need to have a rapid response when trauma happens in our community, because like you said, that's a quotable, it gets transformed and transferred. And it's newsworthy, but then the conversation stops and the healing doesn't take place.
Right.
And so we're looking at legislations and policies, and it's piecemeal right now, that you have different schools doing different things, but we don't have a statewide response to mass shootings or individual gun violence in community.
Yeah, we do.
This is Martin Luther King's weekend.
Right.
And when you think about the response of his death, we all acted differently. We all remember when we heard that announcement, but we need to not be reactive. We need to be prepared with how to go in and heal and work with communities, counseling. People shouldn't be begging for GoFundMe money,
Right.
We just have to have a better response to dealing with trauma and these kinds of incidents, and that's what we're trying to do at the state level.
That's good.
So I wanted to make a comment because, I'm one of these kids, right? And if you're looking up here, you're looking at, I guess it's about 9 of us up here. And every one of us has been affected with gun violence.
Right.
Multiple. Not just one, multiple. When I first heard of murder, I was 8 years old. I'm 51 now. And it hasn't stopped, right? I was shot and left for dead at 17, right? and he lost an eye from gun violence. I've lost an eye. You've lost children. So here's my thing. We can have all the programming we want set up and this and that, but if we do not build social and emotional skills back in these children's hearts, it's worthless, okay? Because if a child does not love himself, you can have everything set up for that child and have the best of everything, but that child will not respond because that child doesn't love themselves.
Right.
They don't have any love in their heart. So the first level, since this race up here, family structures have been destroyed so bad, they have no one to teach them how to love because they have no one in their homes. So it's up to the duties of the schools to provide social and emotional skills from kindergarten. It'd be a level from 3rd through 5th. It'd be a level through all the way through high school. And it should be a class. It should be a class. Because if you don't love yourself and know how to get the tools to affirm your goodness, to affirm what's good in your life, to make that and voice that and make that real, math could mean anything to you. You can give a F about math. You could give a F about reading. You could give a F about writing your name. So if we don't start from, these children have been raised like me. I'm unfortunately one of these abused children. Some of us are not, right? Some of us are innocent bystanders. A lot of us. But for me, I was told since I was a baby, you're not gonna be nothing. You're gonna be just like your dad. You're a piece of crap. Year after year after year after year, right? This is before video games. This is before Call of Duty. This is before shoot, everything is shoot. So now you think of a child that's born 5 years old, he gets this game, play this game, shut up, get out of my face.
Right.
For 15 to 10 years, this becomes a reality.
Right.
I'm going to rob a car, steal a car, just like the game.
Right.
I'm going to see how many points I can get today.
Not reality.
Because that became their social, emotional skills. That became their skills. And this has become a reality in our community. Now, another thing is, we have to, as African American, Black, whatever you want to call our race as a people, you know, we have to get into gun training with our children. I've went to the gun range with my daughter, she's 12 now, and I see Caucasian white people, they do that all day with their children. They take them hunting.
Right.
They show them, they say, kill that. Next thing you know, the kid don't even want to play with a gun no more. They're like, oh, no, Dad, you can go. I'll sit at home.
Right.
But us, as our race, we refuse that. We don't like guns. We don't like violence. We don't like it. We don't like it. Because we grew up and became here because of violence. So we definitely don't like it.
Right.
But if this is all we're taught, if this is all we're seeing, if you go to bed at night and all you're hearing is arguing all day,
Right.
you wake up hungry, you God. Yeah, Roger, I'm sorry, Roger. It's so much on my mind, you guys, you know, because this is daily for us.
Right.
This
I'm
all,
going to interrupt you because
yeah.
Rajan has something to say.
Like you said, some kids don't feel like they feel loved. Like I have adopted brothers that don't feel loved and they just be around doing stuff. Instead, I try to sit at home and chill with them and talk to them. And I've had deep conversations with them.
Yes.
And they've told me their parents don't love them. They treat them like crap. And like you said, they're going to be like their parents. And I try to help them, even though they're all older than me. I try to help them because they're like my big brothers. And I've always wanted a big brother. And they're all like my big brothers. And I try to help them because I don't want my little brothers, I don't want them to grow up like this. And my little cousin, he really looks up to me, and I don't want him to go through anything I'm going through. And I don't want everybody to think that like let's play GTA in real life, and let's go sell a car, because you don't know if that family, it could be a single mom and she's struggling and she might have food stamps, you know. And I don't want anybody else to go through that. And I want to thank everybody that helped me that day, and I want to thank that doctor. I don't know what he looks like, but I thank him for helping me that day and showing my girlfriend what to do and how to stop the bleeding.
Wow.
And I don't want my brothers to grow up like this, and I don't want my little cousin to, you know, go through what I had to go through, or anyone else.
Before that, we experienced Davari. So Davari was our little cousin.
I know.
And so, what did you feel when we went through that?
I looked up to him. I wanted to be just like him, because he was going to college for football.
Yes, he was.
And he was incredible. He was like a superhuman, is what I thought of him. I thought of him as my superhero. And when I seen him on the field, it was different. And I seen something in him, and ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to play football just like him, or I wanted to do my own sport and go to college just like him. And it's sad because he didn't get to show everyone his full potential,
Right.
because he was amazing. And I'm just sad that his life got taken away from him.
Right.
I want to touch on that because he talked about Davari and that situation, and I remember one of my friends, Dane Washington, who has an organization, was there at the hospital that night with Davari.
He was.
And he called me on the phone. It was probably 2, 3 in the morning, and we started talking about it. And Davari was an outstanding kid. He had no connections to any kind of gangs or violence or anything. He was just in the wrong place, at the wrong time. And Dane said something that has never left my mind. He just said, it's just one of them things. It's just one of those things, right? Because we've normalized losing our kids, normalized losing our outstanding kids to this kind of thing. If Davari's just, he's not that unicorn. Unicorns, it's happened to so many of our outstanding kids, and when he said that to me, I was just, it still sticks with me because we've accepted it and said, hey, we're gonna lose a certain amount of our great kids or our outstanding kids to this foolishness, right? And then everybody in this room has kind of like said, okay, we normalized it, and we've got to stop that. I mean, we've got to stop that.
Bro.
Yeah, you have to stop it because for us, it's not normal.
No.
For me and my family, that's not normal.
No.
It's not.
I just wanted to chime in here right at this point, and this is for the panel themselves and as well as the audience. Something about me that I haven't disclosed, even with you, Senator, as well as Chief. I lived in Los Angeles, California, during the 80s. Literally, there was a school shooting every day.
Every day.
Every day. They were the first in the nation to install metal detectors at the schools. It got so bad, even on the school buses, they had to encase the drivers in plexiglass on the school bus. I lived at 3907 West 59th Place. So what's after 59?
60s.
The 60s, the real rolling 60s. I got to see them develop in a garage.
He's old. He's
Okay,
telling you who
and
he is.
so I learned how to read the writing on the wall. And it started out from what they call the peewees.
Yeah, that's what we were.
As far as they could reach up on their hand to write on that wall. Okay, right on up to the adults. When they first started out there, it wasn't so much in gun violence. You could identify them. They all walked around and wore black outfits. They had a black hat on, but how you could tell their rank is they used golf tees. The tee that they put the ball on. And that's how they
they put them in their hat. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. And a lot of them didn't carry guns. They carried golf clubs to beat each other down.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when I came back to Denver, I got back with the school district. I worked for Denver Public Schools for 30 years. My last 5 was with Aurora. And so automatically, once they had known this and I'd finished school and everything, came back, they said, well, Vincent, since you do know the writing on the wall, our children here in Denver had never heard about the Crips and the Bloods at that particular time. They didn't know which way to choose or who they were going to be in Park Hill. Not so much down here in the Points. It actually started in Park Hill. Okay, and so it started moving out, and it was ridiculous. I could not believe that because they sent me out. I had to do covert things, and I had to go on the school buses because that's where it actually was at. Most children don't realize the school bus is still school business.
Right.
That driver is in charge of you until you're 1,000 feet away from the bus. That particular year, I think there were 2 shootings. They were off campus. But the fact of the matter is, why I'm bringing this all up is because I want to direct this to our senator and to our chief. What laws, other than the red flag law, is available for our youth? Is there anything that we have placed yet that our youth has? I know they have. I do know they have a line to call it. Isn't that right, Chief?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, I mean, there are certainly laws that prohibit youth from possessing guns, but I think we really need to focus on before they possess the gun. I think that we need to focus more on safe storage. These kids aren't getting these guns out of gumball machines.
Right.
These are being stolen from homes. These are being stolen from cars. We really need to continue to educate the public, continue to insist upon people being more responsible. Every single day, you talk about every single day there was a school shooting in Los Angeles. Every single day there was a gun stolen out of a motor vehicle in Denver. Every day. That's a lot of irresponsibility. We need to address that. Because that's how they're getting their hands on their guns. And I want to comment on Jason and my friend Joel. I became familiar with them and their organization, Struggle of Love, about 8-9 years ago, and I thought to myself, what a strange name for an anti-gang initiative. But it means so much to me now because they're right. These kids, they need love. And they need hope too. One of the reasons why I think we have so many kids that engage in this kind of behavior is because they don't have hope. They don't believe that they're about to lose their future because they don't have hope for a future.
Right.
So that's something we need to change.
Yes.
One of the shocking things, I know all of us saw that here in the news this past week, a 6-year-old.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
A 6-year-old. That gun must have felt like 25
Nothing.
pounds in that person's hand. Okay, and it was the mother's gun, I understood. That was the mother's gun. But a 6-year-old gets angry at her teacher and walks in and shoots the teacher in the classroom. So it is very dramatic. And when I heard Sean here, that really got next to me because of the simple fact I've been working with D and him ever since he was a young guy as a model, because he does fashion shows. And we're just finishing that up, which will be presented next month for Black History Month.
And I just want to add, most of the laws that we have are to protect kids. So we don't really have laws really for kids except for under protection. And then there's services. So we need to do a much better job. Like there's Safe to Tell, there's little services that are in schools and that's out there to protect kids. But really it's up to us as adults to making sure that we're creating environments for kids to grow and mature and they're protecting their own future in reference to, maybe not getting pulled into some of these scenarios that might cause them to be incarcerated. So we need to do more in reference to having programs and laws for kids, because right now what they have is you call 911, and if you call the police, sometimes you might not know what the outcome is going to be. That's like what we just heard. But we're all trained to call 911, and we have laws, and the laws are to protect us.
Right.
And for kids, it's the same laws. But really, it's after the incident has happened. And we have other things for services, like if you need food or shelter. But it's not set up like the way you're saying it should be, in reference to being much more supportive of children, because they don't have lobbyists, just like poor people don't have lobbyists, black people don't have lobbyists. It's up to us to fight for the kind of parity and freedom and equity that we want to see in the world, because it's not already out there unless we fight for it.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in, because what I'm hearing here, and being solution oriented, is wraparound services. You know, I come from a generation where we had almost too much to do and so much fun. There wasn't a lot of the shooting and killing. So that says that we don't have the resources, if you will. Well, we have the resources, but we don't have the programming or whatever it is that some of these kids would like to do, other than being out in the street and being consumed by violence, if you will. And so when we look at wraparound services, that could be anything from A to Z. Whatever that individual needs to further their dream, their mission, which leads back to building the relationships with these young folks and not saying, once again, this is what we got, what do you need, what do you want? And to nourish that piece there. I think that's where we can really make some traction, and it's incumbent upon not just us here on the stage, but our communities as a whole. We don't have those conversations. I come from a generation where we were told, you're to be seen and not heard. Okay, and what happens in this house stays in this house.
That's a problem.
Big problem, big problem. And so I throw that out there again, these wraparound services to be identified on an individual basis for any child that's struggling. Because you gotta have that. We all have to have mentors. Everybody wants to be somebody. But until you know what that somebody or that thing is, you're floundering. But to have that conversation and once again build that relationship, I'll support you. I'll take you, I'll help you go where you want to go. I might not have the answer, but I might know someone that does. And understanding that the limited amount of resources that we have, struggle of love, kids beyond,
kids above everything. Yeah.
Kids above everything, thank you. Park Hill Talks, Step to Step. These are just a few programs. We need a lot more programs that aren't necessarily so specific to say this is what we do, but for us to really lock arms, if you will, and understand if I can't do it, I know somebody that can. We'll find that resource.
And you're right. We don't have those resources completely within our community as well. Growing up, I grew up in the 5 Points. Okay. Higher education was always number one. Marie can back me up because we're classmates. The community actually knew what was going on in the community. I couldn't come to your house.
No, sir.
And act up in your yard.
Tell your mom.
But besides that, I mean, your mom could have tore my butt up, and then I'd get home and get tore up again.
That's over.
Okay, and the thing is that the whole community would know, why'd you act that way over there at their house, such and such? You'd be walking down the street. And they would actually say that, Vincent, I heard you did such and such, such. It used to really surprise me.
Right.
That type of communication we had within our community itself. And all the after school things that we had as children.
Bring them back.
We need that. We actually need that to have them there being supervised. And then my last question on this before we turn it over to some other Q&A stuff. Why don't we have it any longer?
What happened?
It's a relationship situation. A lot of us lost relationships. We raised our kids. We have kids in school now, not to have everything they want at their beck and call.
A little bit,
and it's not my job to provide you
don't
with the
have
latest
what we
PS4 or those kind of things. I tell my daughter one of the things she hates is I say, I'm the mommy.
Period.
So this is what we're going to do. I was really angry with her teachers at one point because she's a good student and she had all A's. So they decided not to call me and not to show up or call me for the parent meeting during COVID. How dare you? I'm the mother. It's my responsibility to look out for my children and to guide them. You are not their parent. I do want you to play the role that you're supposed to play. Be a part of our community, keep the children safe. But if I'm not engaged and I don't say what's going on and I don't ever show up to the school, where are the parents on the CSCs, the community school committees? Where are the parents at the advisory committees? I'm not saying that we could all be there, but can't we form a collaborative where we as parents could be present? If you can't be at school, I can be at school.
Right.
And I can say, this is happening to your child.
Right.
And you're right, all the old school things.
All the old school things. We
Yes.
have to get away from saying that's somebody else's business.
Yes.
But because if a young man that I know is getting beat up at school and my daughter's coming in to tell me, and I call the school and they say, well, I can't tell you because that's not your business.
Right.
Yes, it is my business. And it's your duty to find a way to talk to me as a parent. I don't need to hear about it after it's already happened and everything is over. I need to be able to put my feet to work, call on my friend here, call on someone I don't know yet. I need to be able to say, we could get together and do this.
Right.
It can't be that. I should be okay to call on Chief Thomas and say, hey, I need help. But I know that my family's afraid to call because, as someone else was saying, I think we don't know what's going to happen if we make that call.
Make that call.
If we make that call, we're not sure. So we need to, it has to be a whole community decision, a whole community commitment. And we have to trust that we believe that Chief Thomas is called to be the man, I can't say you, the man of God, but that's what I wanted to say, the man of God that God has made him to be.
There you go.
And I, the woman of God that God's made me to be, struggle to love. Everybody here wants to love. And that's what we have to bring to our community because that's what we want to birth into it. And we've got to decide what we want to see.
Right.
That's what we got to talk. That's what we got to do. And it can't just be a conversation. It has to be some real action. I'm ready to put my $5 down. What about you?
Right.
It has to be money.
Most definitely.
A couple comments. I wanted to go back with Roger when Roger says, ask them what they want. 9 out of 10 youth that will ask that, what do you think their answer is?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. What do you mean, what do I want? So that goes back to the social emotional skills again. 9 out of 10 youth that we work with, if we sit down and say, let's, because we make them come up with a 30, 60, 90-day plan of their own. But they don't even know where to start at. What do you mean? Well, here, let's start with cleaning your ears first. First 30 days, we're gonna learn how to clean your ears.
So you can hear better.
so you can hear better. But most of these youth don't know how to brush their teeth. They don't know how to wash their feet. They don't know how to wash under their arms. They've never been taught these things. Somebody's ignored most of them all the time. Another thing is I do want to going back to the old things, and thanks to the city and other donations and stuff, that we are trying to build that back again. We are in the rec center every Friday nights doing Friday night moves for the youth and doing different things on Friday nights now. And we are, and the city has allowed us to do that, so thanks to them. And we do have a relationship with the police department where in our area we work hand in hand with Commander Penn. And so and that's what we're trying to do is spread in each community, is that organizations need to work with the police. We have to, because who are you going to call?
That's right.
You're not going to call me and Roger when it's a shooting. I mean, we're going to show up, but we can't handle anything. The police have to handle that. I mean, it's just reality. You know what I'm saying? And we have to build more trust in our police department. If you go out there and talk to them, of course, everything's going to have 1 or 2 bad apples in it. Your company has 1 or 2 bad apples in it, right? So the police department's going to have 1 or 2 bad apples in it. So what? Deal with it. Work with them. Make them change. Right. And the only way we can do that is working with them. And so we've learned that years ago that first person I call, I tell the little youth, this is what I tell them. I said, you want me to call the real gang? I said, I'll call the real gang. I said, what you want to do? Tell me what you want to do right now. And they said, what you mean? I said, never mind, let me show you.
Right.
And they come on up, right, Joel, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. What? You want to talk to the real gang?
Right.
Because this because I'm going to call them. When my house got shot up, my son's 16th birthday party for no reason, I called Commander Penn. He lives around the corner from me.
Now, talking about that, Chief, I'd like to ask you this question. Under your watch, your tutelage, the things that you have dealt with over the years, is there going to be a program designed specifically for that? And I'm speaking more for our people exactly, because we do have a lot more of that crime within the community of color.
Right.
And so I wanted to ask you this. Is there a possibility of a plan under your administration?
In terms of dealing with youth violence or programming specific to youth?
To youth violence as well as specifically with youth.
So yes, we are working with the mayor's office and the Denver Broncos to try to bring some programming back to the Denver Police Department. That's something that I think we have lost. I think we unfortunately have lost our opportunity to build relationships with youth. With the school resource officers being pulled out of the schools. There are other opportunities. We're partnering with the Office of the Independent Monitor. There's a program called Bridging the Gap, Cops and Kids, where we go into the schools and have forums where we really develop relationships with each other. So I think that's important. And really, I think that the solutions to youth violence, I think for the most part, don't involve the police, shouldn't involve the police. We certainly want to be supportive. We certainly want to be partners in the community. We certainly want to facilitate, the identification of grants and monies that can go to programs such as Struggle of Love and Kids Above Everything, because we know that is where it's at. That's where the solutions are in the programming that can give kids hope, that can support youth, that can show them love, that can give them pro-social things to do so that they're not engaged in violence.
And then my next question is for you, Senator. You just getting back from Washington, D.C. about the thing that just occurred down in the Springs. And you were speaking about the red flag laws. Will this red flag law be an umbrella with our children as well?
Right. Well, with the red flag law, what happened is that law enforcement, some of the sheriffs and other law enforcement agencies decided that they did not want to enforce it. And it's unfortunate when you have law enforcement saying that they can pick and choose what laws they want to enforce. And they were really blatant after it passed. I mean, there's some of the sheriffs, I can think of the one in Weld County, just said, I don't want to do it. And I think El Paso County was probably same in that account, that he didn't want to enforce it because he felt like it wasn't written well. Whatever excuse it was, if you don't like a law, then you change it. That's why we have fair housing, because someone said it was illegal to discriminate against black people trying to own homes in certain communities. That's what you do when you want to change the law. You just can't be defiant because you have a badge and said, I want to do something differently. And so what you have in the Q situation, and we kind of knew this was happening, is going to happen. An incident happened where a gun owner had some issues. He was flagged, but whoever was supposed to secure his gun, the police or the sheriff's department, whatever is the function out there, didn't do that. And so what we have is this person going into a club using an assault weapon to kill as many people as he could because of a belief he had. The same with the Tops grocery store. People are getting access to guns, and they're doing some horrible things. So we are going to be looking at changing that law coming up this session. And we're going to be doing a whole host of things to try to see what we can do to curb and end, and whatever we can do to interrupt gun violence, the access to guns in cars. Right. I can't tell you how many kids in Aurora and other places where their parents are thinking that good storage is your glove compartment.
It's not.
We had a lawmaker
Yeah.
Someone I work with at the Capitol.
Come on.
Bring 2 guns.
Yeah, you got it.
To a place I work. Why do you need 2 guns? One was a 9mm and one was an assault weapon. How can you use 2 at the same time? Now I'm like most people. I don't know how to use 2 guns at the same time. And what are you doing to taking it to the Capitol?
What are your thoughts? Like, what are you bringing it to work for?
I don't know. And then why do you unsecure it? Because I don't know about you, but people on Colfax, I have people asking me for food.
Right.
You know, just if you're walking, and you know they're looking for an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so we need to do, if you want to have a gun and you want to be a good gun owner, a responsible owner,
It's a legal way.
secure your guns. It's simple. And so, and it's not as simple as locking it up, because we have people now that are getting ghost guns.
Yeah, there you go.
And in the criminal sector, you know, they know how to take guns apart. They circulate. Once a gun has been used in a crime, they pass it off. And somebody might think they're getting something, but what you're getting is maybe a case.
You're getting
You're
something,
getting,
all
you're
right.
getting a lot of devil.
That's right. And so we're looking at legislation to making sure that every piece that goes to a gun has a serial number. That's going to be hard. We're going to be doing a lot of things. It's going to be hard work. You're going to be hearing about it. I don't know what's going to pass, because it has to pass both chambers in the House and the Senate, and the governor can sign it or he can veto it. But we're looking at it. But this is where we need your help. Because if you see a gun, you know, I'm glad you got the $50, but was it worth it?
No, I didn't get the $50.
You didn't get the $50?
But I have a request.
Use it for bail.
So, what is the gun show today? Tanner Gun Show.
All the time.
Oh, yes.
It's here on 40th and Chambers every weekend almost. Every other weekend. It's today, right?
Tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow. Now, I've gotten information, and I passed this on to the right individuals, but there's a person selling guns out the back door of the Tanner Show in our community to our children, meeting them at the 7-Eleven. I gave all this information to the right people, so I know they're investigating this, right? But here, for me, I would never have a gun show in a violent community like this. Like, get this out of here. Then, you know, we have our parents again, our uncles again, that are going there buying guns for the youth. These are our parents again, and our families and our adults, you know, that are leading us.
Yeah.
So we're really at a real bad battle, right? Because there's a group of adults that are with the shit, that are trying to recruit
That's right.
against us. Like, forget what they're talking about. This, you better hold this gun. You better do what I say. So we have that fight as well. You know,
Right.
so
And just to piggyback what Coach says, every time that the Tanner Show is out and in our area, there's an increase in violence and
There's
shootings.
a major increase.
There's an increase.
And nobody else is paying attention to that, that there's more violence.
Every time. Every
Yes,
time.
and
so
it's
right now we're
ridiculous.
working with DPD and the Tanner Show. Is that we're right now putting in a grant to get more gun locks, and we're going to demand them to at least give out free gun locks with every gun you sell. So that's a mission that we're working with DPD as well with to get that grant to get the more gun locks. And so if you're going to have it, at least
Lock it up.
hand a gun lock out with every gun you sell, and it's free. Here, take a gun lock. It's free, you know, with every gun you sell. So we're working on that as well, but. It's just so many layers to the stinky onion.
know.
You
It
you
really
can pull off one here, and there, but to me it all goes back to parenting.
Okay.
It all goes back to being there, spending that time, looking in the book bags,
Well, paying attention.
opening the
period.
notebook to see what they're writing. You might see a Crip sign, you might see a blood sign, you might see something. Say, what is that? What are you doing?
Right.
What do you need that for? Who are you with?
Right.
You know.
Right.
When you invite your friends over, and they're standing over there all night, call out to the other mama and say, boy, what are you doing here?
Right.
Let me have your mama's number.
Right.
Does she know you over here?
Does she know
That's
you're here?
right.
Exactly.
But we have
Yes.
a couple groups of homes in our area where the mothers, the parents again,
Are the culprits.
they'll have 15 kids, 20 kids spend the night. You're going to tell me, well, they're safe here.
No.
I
And they're
said,
drinking
and they're drinking.
And they're
smoking with them.
with the
because
parents.
they're inside that one house.
Right.
That's not right.
So,
That's
so it's like you got a good, boy, where you going? I'm going to go over here and hang out. You fighting against it, but he run over there and she's with it. She allowed him to do it. Where you think your kid going to go?
Right. Right. And
know what
gonna
I'm saying?
keep going there.
The next question I got from the audience there is directed towards you, Chief, as far as why are we reducing the SROs in the schools?
Well, I want to make it clear that that was a decision by the
Yeah,
school
they
board. And I
must be
certainly
glad
respect
they
the school
go.
board.
School district.
You know, and I think that what they were after is they were after reducing disparate impact on children of color. I think that's a noble thing to try to get at. But in my mind, I think what was lost was that relationship that officer had in those schools. What was lost was that opportunity to understand what restorative justice practices that school was engaging in. The schools are going to call the police when there's a problem, and that officer is going to show up, but he's not going to understand the dynamics with that particular child. He's not going to understand the dynamic, the restorative justice practices that school is involved in. I'm hopeful that our relationship with DPS safety, that they're able to explain some of that when we get there, so that we can make the right choice and not just the easy choice or the first choice that comes to mind. And so, I'm certainly disturbed by the fact that we don't have that opportunity to continue that relationship, and we'll just have to look elsewhere to do that. I think that the schools are open to continuing that relationship. They are partners with us in that Bridging the Gap program that I talked about earlier, where there are school forums where they have an opportunity for dialogue, back and forth across the table between officers and youth in schools.
And then one other question. As being a soldier, I was a soldier, United States Army, Big Red 1. Being a foot soldier, your foot soldiers are your officers.
Yes.
How many of your foot soldiers are actually into our neighborhoods and walking those beats?
Well, a small number, I'd have to say, unfortunately, and that's mainly because, our call volume is extreme. And in order for us to get to those 911 calls in a reasonable amount of time, we have to have officers in calls. We have to have officers responsive to the radio, and so that limits our opportunity to have officers on foot beats in neighborhoods. We do have a small number of officers assigned to each district that is their particular station. We have community resource officers that have engagements and relationships with the communities, but we also have small teams of officers that do just that, walk beats. And certainly, as we're able to reduce our call load, which is a priority of mine, and we can have the opportunity to put more officers out on the street, foot boots, if you will, able to have those face-to-face conversations and those engagements and relationships. I'm certainly want to do more of that.
One of the officers, I don't know if you were on the force during that time, Michael Anderson.
Know him well.
You know him well. I know you do. Michael he was a horse patrolman, and Michael lived 3 doors from me.
Okay.
Over in the old neighborhood. And he wanted to get me on the force before I went in the Army.
Okay.
And I said, well, the thing is, I don't know about that because I know too many people in the neighborhood. and there was too many people that knew me. Yeah. So I didn't feel good okay.
That's when you was that
go.
6-0. Big 6-0. No,
so, but the thing is that Mike actually walked our streets.
Yes.
Mike rode that horse down 26th Avenue.
Yes.
Michael was always down on the points. And he knew everyone by name in the neighborhood, especially those that were troublemakers. He knew them. Okay, and the thing is that Mike, like I said, he's like my big brother. And so we do need more officers in that state.
I'd like to add that piece. It's called community policing. It's neighborhood police officers. It's part of that CRO. building those relationships, just like you were saying earlier, Joel, where these kids don't know what they want. Building a relationship takes time, and over time is how you build that trust where they open up. Because you might not tell me, but you might tell him. You see what I'm saying? And that's that piece, knowing who's what and who's doing what. Like with the community police officers, I ran a program called Weed and Seed in Curtis Park 5 Points for about 5 years, and that's where I met several of our community or neighborhood police officers. Those are relationship builders, because you know, X over here, he might be drinking a little bit. Over here, they might play their music a little bit loud, but as long as there's not a complaint, you know those folks and you know what they're doing. That's the key. And then the new piece, restorative justice, especially for our youth, to understand the harm that they've caused. And I think that's another thing that they don't realize, that they've caused that harm, but the opportunity to repair it is what's key. So community policing and restorative justice, I think, are two pieces that we should be instilling in our neighborhoods so that we embrace these youth, so they recognize and realize that we're the parents. Just because we didn't birth them, we're still the parents.
That's real.
And you know, one thing about that, you said that about the youth, is that, and we all know this, at one particular time, everyone is scared of the police. They fear the police. They don't embrace that they're there to protect us and serve. And automatically the kids, oh, there's the popos.
Yep.
Okay. In other words, they're evading what is there for them as far as protection, education, and everything else of that. And as I go back to that, the whole neighborhood, at one time, we made sure we were secure. So I'm looking forward to that as in our next discussion on this, which will be coming up soon, that we secure one another. Tell a friend to tell a friend, to tell a relative, to tell others, come, this is our fault. We have to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Of course, they're there to protect us all. But if we don't protect ourselves first, how are we going to depend on them?
Right.
So true.
Can I piggyback on something that we're working with the chief on?
Yes, come on up.
I'm Marilyn Ackerman with Together Colorado. I work with Sharon, and we've been asked by the police in Denver to work on a program that's being modeled after the Seattle program called, oh, I can't remember what the Seattle one's called, but we've named the Denver one Before the Badge. And we're going to be helping officers before they become officers, before they wear the badge, before they wear the uniform, to get into our communities and talk to business people as well as the community, because our relationship, especially people of color's relationship with police, as we're talking about here, is broken. And there is no trust. And so Seattle's been extremely successful with reducing complaints against the police and with getting community to trust the police when the police know their community. And maybe they can pick which neighborhood they want to work in based on what they go out before they become academy students to figure out, oh, I fit in this neighborhood, or I want to work with these people, and we are going to walk with them as community organizers to introduce them to our communities, to help them trust each other, to help us understand what the police are here to do, to live up to that protect and serve. And Sharon we've been trying this out on, we tried it out on Chief Thomas, we tried it out on DAs, we've tried it out on other law enforcement. Exactly what you guys are talking about. What does it mean to be in community? And a group of seven women in our community wrote this vision statement of what does community look like. And I just think it's a prayer. It's beautiful. And Sharon, can you read it?
If y'all don't mind, absolutely. As people of faith, we believe community is built on relationships of mutual respect, love, understanding, compassion, honesty, and justice. We believe that safe communities are communities in which we take care of each other, value knowing and trusting one another, and share a common understanding that we need each other. We believe safe communities trust in the power of relationships. Safe communities put their resources and community dollars into affordable housing, grocery stores, good schools, places to play and recreate like parks and community recreation centers, and health care from the cradle to the grave, including easy access to mental health services. we're aware that there's a dominant narrative that tells us our relationships in our neighborhoods cannot be trusted. A narrative that would have us believe we need to fear each other. As people of faith, we say we have heard that story before. The fear-based story of community is compelling. We've felt it too. We've felt it chill us. We know it makes us smaller and diminishes our lives and keeps our communities from flourishing. Instead, we choose to come together to build communities and relationships, reach out to each other, and create the safe communities we know are possible. We, people of all faiths, races, and backgrounds, keep each other safe. It's our responsibility. Anything we see out here in the streets is because we either have done something to start it or we didn't do anything to stop it. So it's us. It's our responsibility.
This curriculum before the badge, I was thinking about you talking about the SROs, and I'm hoping that it can spread to other retraining of officers so that trust can be built. But one of the things that we specifically have been asked to do for the officers training before they become academy students is to talk about racism and to talk about it. My colleague that I'm doing this with is black, and I, for those who can't see me, I'm white. We are being asked to go deep into our nation's history of racism, our state's racism history, and our history of policing here in Denver. And I'm impressed that the Denver Police Department has invited us into this space, and I commend you if you had any hand in that.
I had all the hands in that.
Okay. Because to me, that is a new day. That is a new opening for the community to feel somewhat hopeful and safe. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rita Lewis, and I'm running for Denver City Council, District 8, but that's not why I'm here. I am from Park Hill. I grew up in Northeast Park Hill. I still live in Park Hill. My son went to George Washington. I had to take him out of George Washington because of the violence. I'm an alumni of George Washington High School. I took him over to East. He graduated from East High School last year. And young man, I watched your story live on TV. And it's just a pleasure to meet you. And so I'm here for the community. I've never ran for politics before, but my whole issue is I am from the community. I am Park Hill. I want to do whatever I can. And so my first question, Chief Thomas, is can we go back to the manual example? Put those metal detectors back in the schools. And then the other question is, and this is my lawyer hat, why can't we arrest those people at the Tanner Gun Show? If we know now, if we have the information and we see them at that back door, I think they should be arrested immediately. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So first of all, certainly I think that it would be helpful if the schools had metal detectors at the doors. I think that there may be some chilling effect. I think I understand the need to sort of balance a healthy learning environment with safety and protection, but that's ultimately going to be a call by the school board and the school system. As far as arresting people for selling guns illegally, providing guns to people that shouldn't possess guns from the Tanner Gun Show, I'm thankful to Joel for giving us that intel. We are looking into that, and certainly if we catch somebody, they are going to be arrested.
And I just want to add just a philosophical viewpoint about hardening schools. Because there's some thinking that, we don't want to create this environment in schools that you're going into like a prison situation where there's metal detectors. So there's some people that's saying that it's not in the equipment, it's within the people and the services, that we need to spend more time in the infrastructure versus the equipment of the security element. So there's two sides to that story, and the governor has put in the budget where communities can access funding for that. And so each school district, like you said, that don't have the resources to do that, then that's one way to do it. And then there could be other ways to deal with locks in the classrooms. There's other ways to do it besides maybe metal detectors. But there is both sides. Some people think it's good. Some people say it's not. And then the discipline that's involved with it, if someone brings something in. So it's a complicated topic. But I'm going to need to run, so I just want to let you know that I really appreciate this conversation. My name is Rhonda Fields. My information is public. And I want to join you when you go to that next Tanner gun show. With security, I'd like to see what they're doing over there. Yeah. So I'm going to be calling
Thank you,
you.
Brianna. Yes. So I have, so did you hear Mr. Joel say that most kids don't know what they want?
Well, I wanted to say something to this young man.
I want to ask him, does he know if somebody asks you, what do you know? You wouldn't know. So what do you think should be changed, like in the situation?
In this situation, I think we should just show, like you said, everyone love. Mm-hmm. And we should show them that there's hope in their lives. Mm-hmm. Instead of showing them that, instead of telling them like, you're going to be like your parents, show them a way out instead of being like their parents. Mm-hmm. Show them that there's hope in their lives.
That's right. Well, give me some.
I just want to say, I want to give a shout out to you, bro. Because when it happened to me, right, I went back into it. It got worse. Mm-hmm. And for you to stand here and have the power to stand on the right side and have that strength, you're miles and miles and decades ahead of me. So stay what you're doing, brother. You got good family, you got good grandmothers, you got good grandparents, and you got good friends in here now. You know, stay positive. Stay, because God got you here for a reason. And you're sitting at this panel as a beautiful young man. I just want to thank you, brother, for doing the right thing. I love you, man. I love you. All right? Nobody's ever telling you that. I love you. If you need to hear it, call my number. You know what I'm saying?
He hears it 200 times a day.
Yeah.
Also, we were talking about how everybody's not an athlete. Struggle of Love does a lot of different things. They have a basketball team. It's a girls' basketball team, I think, right?
We got both.
You have
yeah.
both.
We got sports our own in-house mental health team, which are minorities, people of color. We have our entrepreneurship program that's ran by Jason, our secondary prevention, violence interruption. We have numerous of things. And if we don't have it, our partners got it. Right. Our next door neighbors got it. The city's got it. We'll find it. Right. And that's the thing, is that of our parents again. It's just, I mean, you could drop your child off. It's just like you said. I don't know. Mm-hmm. What do you want to do? I don't know. But if you have those options there to make them even see something, mm-hmm. they may try it. And then it starts opening up their mind, like you said, Roger, to really figure out what their dreams is, what their stomach is wanting them to do.
Right, right. And we do, my business is Black Pro Entertainment, and we teach self-esteem through music and arts and acting and dancing and anything that has to do with entertainment, positive entertainment. You guys can look us up. No cussing. I don't want to hear no cussing, calling people names, none of that kind of music. We're done with that, right, y'all? Mm-hmm. We're done with that because we need to show more love, and then we wouldn't have so much violence. Yeah, so I believe in showing love, and I believe in, when he says the parents, I used to run an after-school program. Yeah. I had to choose my words. God said, don't say that. So I ran that program for at least 7 years, and some of the parents, I never met them. I never met them. And then the other thing for the school system, they have their basketball games at 4:30 and 5, and then they complain about the parents not coming to the games. Well, how can they if they don't get off work till 4:30 or 5? Too, right? By the time they drive across town to get to the game is almost over. So we need to think about that too, because if we want the parent support for the sports or even band, whatever, you guys need to stop making it to where the parents are, for me, I think they do it on purpose. You know, so you'll have something to complain about. But if you want the parent support, we need to change the times to where the parents can be there. And then we won't have such, I think it would be so much better, because then the child could see their parents are there. They were able to make it.
And then we can't quit on our children when they make a mistake. When 14, 15, and say, get out. Get out of here. You're done. You know, it's other races. Their child will be addicted to drugs at 30, 40 years old. They'll still put up their house to get them to rehab. We won't. You, please. You think I'm putting up my house for you? Dude, I mean, seriously.
Right.
But I'm serious. It's a difference. There's a big difference. You know what I'm saying? They'll take off work to get to the game.
Yeah.
They say, I got to leave early. They'll probably have it already in their schedule. Give it to the boss. These days, I got to leave early because I got to get to my kid's game. Either you like it or you don't.
Right.
I will find me another job for their children. Us, we scared to do that because we'll get fired.
We will get fired.
We'll get fired immediately. And so all of that, and then talking to our children, making sure that our children understand what's wrong with us. This is why I don't know how to love you, because this is where I was raised at. Then your child might have a chance to forgive you and understand your situation. Then forgive you. And then that will release some of the anger that they have inside. So it's just, you know, there's levels to doing this, right? So, you know, the first thing is making sure you understand. Our children understand, hey, listen, when I was growing up, I was poor. So what I decided to do, I was going to make sure I provided you with shelter, clothes, and food, that you would never have to worry about that. But where I missed out at is what? Love. So now what I teach my sons is, well, you know that. So now you provide your children with everything and add the love in. So we start breaking that cycle, you know, because some of us were just raised without love. We was raised with nothing.
Survival mode.
Right.
A lot of parents were on survival mode. What were you going to say?
We also need to realize that we as parents need help.
Right.
And so to get my family kicked off and to go into counseling, I went myself. I'm a veteran, but I wasn't I didn't hold guns and stuff like that. But there's trauma that I've had in my life that I needed some healing from. And then when my children were affected by the violence of the mouth and the violence in the community, all that violence adds up. And we have to remember, we were a people brought here in violence.
We were.
And so violence is pervasive in the community because we're expecting it.
Yeah.
Our kids are gearing up for it. My boys want to have guns because of it. So we have to see and say that we need help individually, and they'll make it all right for them. It'll be okay to get help, because we're all suffering some kind of post-traumatic stress, if you will.
And sometimes you don't even know it.
Don't know it. And we need to admit that it's true. I need help. It needs to be, I need help. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry, daughter.
Right.
Because I brought my trauma to you.
To you. Exactly.
Right. Marie, you have a book that you've written. Can you tell everybody about that book?
Yeah, well, the year Broderick got shot June 9th. May 15th, my father came up missing, and he just never came home. So B. Harris of the Urban Spectrum had printed out 3,000 flyers, and we went and put all the flyers out where my father was last seen. So I'm gonna step back. I was raised Buddhism for 20 years, and God had started knocking on my heart to seek Him. So I'm very well read. So I went to the libraries and got 3 books on how to pray. I didn't know how to pray. And so 2 days later, my father came up missing on May 15th. We were in the process of looking for him. His credit card statements start coming back. It was moving from Denver towards New Mexico. And he didn't smoke, cigarettes, gum, stupid stuff on the cards. So we were looking for my father, and then Broderick and my 2 daughters were in the front seat. My 2 sons were in the back, 6 and 3. Well, the writing on the wall that Vince was talking about, gang members have been here, Crips. They have the writings, but Denver didn't know. So Leon Kelly was the only one that was able to identify that the Crips had moved to Denver. So there was 3 carloads with 6 kids in each car. They had blue scarves on, blue fingernail polish. And my daughter turned the corner, and the cars were coming up the street, and it was they were shooting at the houses, in Park Hill. Well, everybody ducked, but my 6-year-old looked up. So the 9mm went through the windshield of the car and went between his eyes and stopped at the back of his head. There was a infamous neurologist at Denver General teaching, a neurosurgeon. He happened to be there when my son went in. So Broderick got shot June 9th. He was back in 2nd grade in September. And he still has the bullet in his hand. He's impaired. And so when he came out of a coma, my son said, "Mom, I seen Daddy, Granddaddy." Well, we still haven't found my father. So we said, "Where'd you see your grandfather?" He said, "In his grave in the woods." Well, we found my father's remains in the woods about 6 months later. Well, 2 months after Broderick got out, my daughter came to me and said that she had been molested by her stepfather since she was 6 years old. And so that was May, my father, my son, my daughter. Of course, I went to that divorce. So my book is called The Summer of Violence. And I wrote the book because of healing, the traumatic issues. They told me that I needed counseling, but I said, Black people don't do that. So right after Broderick got out the hospital, I was watering the flowers, and it was 3 guys in the middle of the street walking. They were sagging. And I said hello, and one of them turned around and went in his shirt like this, and turned around, and so I threw the water hose, and I was on the ground covering my head, shaking, "Don't shoot me." And so time went by, and I looked up, and the kid was still scratching. So I said, "I need counseling." So I called the counselors, and that's why I said earlier, there's a lot of wounded people around us, and we do need help for survivors, the people that go through traumatic injury. So my book talks about the power of prayer, finding God. Now I'm a minister, and God just, John Elway knocked on my door, gave me a car. I have the original Rockies. 1993 was Colorado's Rockies' first year. They came to the hospital. I got a baseball with Eric Young in the original team. And of course, he started the gun control law, the curfew law. My whole life changed. And so I wrote the book of The Summer of Violence. And it was just for parents to pray for their children. And so now I'm very protective over my 12 grandkids. So I'm like a hawk. When they go in there, come over, I'm in everything. I'm in their backpack. Gun, Call of Duty. It's not in my house. And so I watch what they watch on TV. And they was like, "Dang, we're going to grandma's house." So that's the name of my book and the purpose of me writing it.
Thank you. And they can pick it up where?
At Amazon.
Barnes and Noble. And we just wanted to have this discussion because there's a lot of things that are, I would say, hidden in plain sight. And we need to talk about those things that are hidden in plain sight. And we also need to understand that I was telling RJ that we can't tell him how to heal. We can't tell him how to feel. I didn't get shot, but I felt the impact of him getting shot. Our whole entire family did. But we need to talk to the school system. We need to talk to even the rec centers and things like that, because you can't force someone to heal when you think they should be healed. You can't expect someone to come sit in a classroom for 7 classes and be all right when it's happened in September and we're just in January. It takes time. You know, and the way you speak to us, the way you email us, we're gonna respond in a defensive manner because I'm gonna protect him at all costs. I'm gonna protect his mother at all costs, and whatever happens,
you know, you may get the wrong part of me if you're not careful with, I call them, this is my lineage. This is one of the best things I've ever done in my life, was to have 3 kids, and they have 6 beautiful grandkids amongst the 3 of them. And so we become like mother hens or the eagle. You know, if you see a tiger, we will pounce on you behind our children.
Yeah.
So when he says, and I know that some parents, I don't understand why you had the kids.
Right.
Because they can't raise themselves. You have to teach them, and you're always their parent until one of you die. You're always going to be somebody's mom if you had a kid. You're always going to be somebody's dad if you had a kid, until one of you are no longer here. But I hear a lot of parents say, oh, he's 18 now, so I'm done. No, you're not done. You're not finished. I don't understand that at all. I don't get it. And I just wanted, Roger, when people say that to you, how do you feel when they say, oh, he's 18 now, I'm done?
Oh, it's never done. It's a lifelong journey. At 61, I'm still my mom's baby.
Yeah. I was about to say that about Jason.
At 81, the roles have
That's
reversed.
a good thing.
Right.
So everything that she poured into me, I poured back into her.
Exactly.
It's never done. The healing is never done. I think you make steps and you get better. But I'll say this, and that Reese was murdered in 2018, and this past holiday was the first time that I didn't cry like a baby on Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And Reese is in my house every day, in every room, and Reese is here right now.
Right.
That's what gives me strength, okay, to do what I do, to give something to somebody, because we all have something to give, whether we know it or not.
Right.
We may be giving and not even realizing it. So thank you for asking that question, because I'm a lifelong healer, and hopefully a lifelong survivor.
Right.
To give back.
Yes. And I want to say to everybody out there, well, let's ask you the question. Have you ever been a gang member?
No.
No. But we know gang members, right? Because why?
Because they're our protectors.
They've been around forever, right?
And unfortunately, sometimes the gang member is the person that we've known for a long, long time. But they've been the person that we call on and say, well, can you go pick him up? We can't help it if they're dressed like that when they go pick him up. We can't help that. But what we can do is continue to give them something positive to do, so maybe they will turn their life around. But if we keep saying over and over again, that's all they're ever going to be, and we don't step in position to help them change, then we're going to have to deal with the gun violence. We're going to have to deal with the dropout rates and all of that. But what we can do is reach our hand out and see how much we can pour into them, instead of always accusing them, ignoring them, because they're really asking for help. They're really asking for love, right?
Yeah.
So we're just about to wrap up here, and I'd like to have each one of you chime in on something personal, that how this affected you. Even in our audience, if you guys would like to come up and have a quick question, you can come over and have a quick question.
Yes, Brianna, we're asking you to come up, please. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, my dear.
Come on over.
Run, Forrest.
Hi, everyone. My name is Delonda. Thank you. My name is Delonda Franklin. I am like a second or third generation Coloradan, and I'm 43. I grew up in the 5 Points neighborhood. I grew up in the 90s when gangs started happening. You know, it was around the time of Dr. Dre's The Chronic. I saw my schoolmates start joining gangs. I remember, you know, just how the neighborhood changed, the world changed here in Colorado. I saw, you know, like the devastation that it did to the communities. And as a teenager, you know, in the 90s, I remember we used to, and about 10 years old, around that age, we used to have a lot of activities for the inner city kids. We used to have Mr. Leon Kelly, Reverend Leon Kelly. He was wonderful. I remember going to his facilities as a child. And then we used to have the rec centers. They got taken away. they got taken away from the communities, which left my friends, my peers, into the streets. They had no positive outlets to, there was no safe places to hang out. There was no, community spaces. And as Mr. Vincent said, how it was when he grew up, where everybody knew everybody. The parents knew everybody. That's how it was when I grew up. You might not get along with certain kids or for whatever reason, but our parents knew each other. And, Denver was, and Colorado in general was, it was close-knit. And I saw, how once the rec centers and the activities for the youth got taken away, kids turned to gangs. They started, smoking weed. I remember when gang members started rolling in from California. As a kid, I remember seeing every other house full of gang members that were not from here. Ice Cube, you guys might not know who he is, but so he has a song called My Summer Vacation. And he talks about everything that he says in this song called My Summer Vacation is what the gangs of California did nationwide. They went around to different neighborhoods and they set up shop. They sold drugs in our communities. I grew up, I was about 11, 12, 13 when this started happening. So I've watched Colorado change. I've watched my neighborhoods, the 5 Points. When you're from Colorado, we're from Denver, you're from Colorado. The Colorado is this big. So everybody's connected in one way or another. Our families all know somebody from somewhere. And I have children. My son was shot at several times. And I recently, last year, had a bullet come through my window. And I didn't get help from the police department because it's a juvenile, so they won't tell me anything. I was reached out by the victim's assistants, and my window was busted. They wouldn't help me. So there's things, and I, as an adult during the recession, I volunteered at the Salvation Army over by Manual. I went to Manual. I went to Maury. I went to Whittier. And so I'm from Denver. I volunteered at the Red Shield Salvation Army by Manual. Once the kids were coming in there from Manual, they felt welcomed, and then we had outside presence that was not from our community. So they put rules, and it discouraged. I saw a lot of kids, from Manual, they were upset. I would talk them out of doing, crimes to, the staff or acting out or whatever else. But I feel as a native, there's nothing for our children here. There's nothing for them to do. They don't have, that type of support. And then with the outside leadership that has came in and taken roles on our in our government, in our capital, they are passing laws, that are contributing to the devastation, the marijuana laws. We voted for that, or some of us didn't, but a lot of people did. And and then here recently they voted for the approval of mushrooms. And then as a youth, my family was devastated, and my community was devastated by the cocaine era and the crack era. So I grew up with that and seeing my family and the community devastated from crack. And so they were locked up, and they didn't care about what happened to us. But now that we have outside leadership and politicians that came in, they legalized safe shoot-up sites for these new people, the new Colorado residents that picked up their lives, and the 5-10 million people that moved here just to get high. You know, it's stuff needs to be done.
They're making the traffic awful.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. And there should have been laws. I've considered running for Congress. I've considered running for mayor because I'm from here. I don't like what has been done to my state, you know, by outside people. And, you know, our community's suffering. And, you know, I'm scared for the kids. I'm scared. This breaks my heart what happened to RJ. I have 4 children. My son's 28. He's been shot at several times, you know, and it's very scary because, you know, we're watching the news and all these kids are getting shot. You know, it's very scary. There's no positive outings and things that they can do here. You know, and I saw, you know, in 1993, 94, I remember Joe Biden and Bill Clinton's mass incarceration, 3 strikes crime bill. That genocide my community. Yes. That genocide every single community nationwide. Nationwide. I'm 43. As a 43-year-old woman, I don't have the option to meet and date men that are between the ages of 40 and 45.
Well, tell the truth.
Yeah, because they're in jail. They were dead. They're still my peers from Manual, South, you know, all the high schools during my age group. My community was cleaned up. I suffered for a long time PTSD, watching my peers, my friends, even my enemies, people that I didn't like, get taken away, get snatched away. And then I felt like a ghost for a long time because I didn't go to jail. I saw my community, I saw the houses being filled up with different people. There was nobody to speak for us. There's nobody, you know, to speak for us, and we've suffered in silence. I probably should go to counseling too, but you know, for the stuff that I've seen and I've survived, and you know, and it's just, you know, it's not just, we can't just blame, you know, one person or the, you know, whatever. But I saw it, and you know, it's been really hard being a minority here, and then we've got, you know, these leaders that are not from here. They're tearing Colorado up, you know, from our structures to the houses to the streets to the laws, you know, and something needs to be done. You know, from the drug usage, to the homeless crisis.
Right, it's,
you know,
ridiculous.
It's very sad, and we're natives, and we can't afford to live here. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Ron, can you answer any of what she said? Do you have any comments?
Well, certainly. You know, I apologize for your experience. I mean, your lifelong experience, and certainly, you know, there are things that I want to do to make sure that the people that are growing up now don't have a similar experience. And certainly, I'm hopeful that you know, legislators like Rhonda Fields, who was here, really are going to carry that baton forward and make sure that there are laws that protect Coloradans like yourself and Denverites and make this a much safer community.
Thank you. Before we legalized the marijuana, I reached out to Mayor Hancock's office, and I was noticing friends, family members becoming homeless, you know, because we can't afford to live where we've lived. We can't afford it because we're getting pushed out. And I got the runaround. I got offered resources for housing and things like that. That was not my, you know, my concern or my question. It was, what are you guys going to do to protect the natives that are from here, you know, and stuff like that. But I'm considering leaving just because of the climate and everything here. So, you know, I don't want to leave. This is home, but you know, it's violent here. You know, it's violent.
It's violent everywhere, man.
It
you
is
go to
violent
Texas,
everywhere.
you go to Oklahoma, you go everywhere, it's violence.
It is
violent.
And then I just wanted to say one last thing. We all have a choice too.
Yes, we do.
We chose to take those drugs. A lot of us, you know, when I was 13, 12, a lot of older guys influenced it, but we still had a choice.
Right.
We still can say no.
Right. And no is easy. I tell people all the time, no is easy.
Yeah, we got to stop blaming, the government, the drugs and stuff. We made a choice. A lot of us made a choice, made a commitment to illegal life, and enjoyed it. So
we
have a choice.
Time for one more question.
Can I just make a comment?
Or a comment? Yes.
We want to see you in the light.
No one's
We want to see you in the light.
Why you get to sit up? Get on up and do the
Look,
comment.
Keisha.
Just real quick, and I appreciate being here. I appreciate the invite, and I appreciate everyone sharing everything that they did today. But my comment is about how we're talking about the old ways and how the community was a village and you couldn't do this or do that, or somebody was going to catch you or see you. And I just want to say those days are gone. They are long gone, and we have to be creative in moving forward, keeping up with our children, evolving with them, and learning new ways to engage. So.
Don't be nervous.
Yes.
And I'm always nervous because I hate speaking, but I really wanted to put that in everyone's ear that we got to keep up with these youth,
right,
and see what it is they're doing, not asking questions, like evolving and growing with them.
Right. And my last comment, it would be, you're parents, you're the parent. You're not their friend. This little girl, I love her. She's not little anymore. But she still asks me for advice. She still, if I say you shouldn't do that, she still listens. So I believe that a lot of people are trying to be their friend because they don't want to make their kid angry. My kids is always mad at me. My grandkids is always mad at me. Your kid is probably always mad at me because if I see your kid, all y'all's kids, come here. Have a seat.
Yeah.
And we need to learn how to tell our kids it's okay if somebody's not trying to hurt you. Respect your elders. Respect all that cussing when the grown folks is around is unnecessary. I don't see the parent turn to correct them. I don't see the parent tell them don't do that. I don't see that at all. So the disrespect has to stop. That's one thing we can do is tell parents, teach your kid. That's not right.
And that's a scary thing because some of these parents will snap at you.
Oh yeah.
Don't talk to my kid. Don't tell my kid what to do.
Right.
Oh, excuse
me. So they're going to get hit by a car because you ain't saying nothing.
But in these wraparound services that we talk about, some of the parents have been traumatized too. So they need just as much help as that child needs. They need that same support that we're saying we need to tell the child we love them. We need to tell that parent, you're loved. What happened to you, baby?
That's
it.
Can I help?
Chief, is there anything last that you'd like to say?
The last thing I want to say, RJ's story really resonated with me, and it continues to shake me, his comment about, letting his guard down. And, I think maybe, with it being Martin Luther King Jr. Weekend, I really want to say I have a dream that one day, very, very soon, children will not have to worry about letting their guard down.
Right.
Exactly. Children or parents, anybody.
You have anything last to say?
I like to say, don't be scared to get help, especially if you're a man or a boy, you're a teenager. Don't be scared to get help. Don't be scared to cry, because real men will show their feelings. Real men will go and get help. Real men will take care of their own selves and not hold in all that pain.
Great job.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you. You have anything to say, daughter?
No. I appreciate all of you guys for all the support we've had. It's hard. My baby wakes up still in the middle of the night and comes and gets in my bed. And he's 14, so he feels more safe being next to me than sleeping in his own room. We live by gunshots every night. We live on the north side, so that's all we hear. His room is at the top. Most of the time, that's where the gunshots come from. So I'd rather everyone just come downstairs and stay on one level. Right. We have a whole house, and we shouldn't all just be stuck on one level.
Yeah. Right.
We should be able to move around. Everyone should be in their own spaces. But unfortunately, that's not what we can do. We walk down the street, and people are like, "Oh, hey, you're the boy that was shot in his face." And I just feel like people should come differently and ask him, or ask him if he's okay first before you even ask him what happened to him.
Right. So for you guys out there that say that, his name is RJ.
RJ.
It's just 2 letters, RJ. Well, we better say little RJ because there's a big RJ. Thank you guys for coming and supporting us. I want to give a special shout out to every organization that is doing their best to change the climate, and don't stop. If somebody tells you no, just keep going until you get a yes. And we're over and out, y'all.